Hey, Browns fans, Spencer German with you live from Berea, Ohio, where the Browns just had another day of practice under their belts as they get ready for their Week 3 matchup with the New York Giants, as you know, coming up this Sunday over at Huntington Bank Field. A lot of different things to touch on today. Amari Cooper had some interesting comments just about his approach as he, tries to rebound from what's been a rough couple games here to start the season. But as always, I like to start with injuries, and I think that's a good starting place yet again today. We saw two players who were out of practice yesterday return in DeJuan Jones and Jamari Thrash. He had an illness. Jones, as we talked about at length yesterday, dealing with a knee injury that he sustained during the game against the Jaguars. Not suspected to be serious, but just something that he clearly banged up and needed a day off at least to kind of get ready. But he did tell reporters yesterday that he planned on practicing and playing this weekend. And now he is officially trending back in that direction after practicing on Thursday. We'll see what Friday holds for him as well. Still missing from practice today, some notable names. David Njoku, of course, still dealing with that ankle. Kevin Stefanski told us on Wednesday that it's unlikely that Njoku plays this weekend, so not necessarily expecting him to be ready for the Giants game. Myles Garrett out once again. That's notable because he's dealing with that foot injury, missed practice yesterday, and was not out there yet again today. He tends to, during the season, get a kind of veteran day off, so you could always chalk that up for one of these days. But the fact that he's out 2 days tells you that they're really playing this thing safe and being careful in terms of that injury and giving him some time, some extra time to just sort of nurse that thing and get himself back acclimated and ready for the game on Sunday. And then Pierre Strong, who's still dealing with that hamstring issue, he's considered day to day. And then a surprise one, Dalvin Tomlinson, not at practice today as well. No words yet on what his situation was on Thursday, but I'm sure we'll find out more about that from Kevin Stefanski on Friday, but he was not out there today. In terms of other news surrounding the team today, it was the official hearing day for Mike Hall Jr., rookie defensive tackle. The Browns chosen in the second round this year as he went to court in Avon Lake and pleaded no contest to what was a reduced charge of disorderly conduct. And that came with a 30-day jail time that will be suspended as long as he does 2 years of probation. He paid a $250 fine as well, or he's expected to pay a $250 fine as well. And that should settle, at least from the legal standpoint, where he's at with this situation that obviously popped up with the domestic violence case back in August that got him put on the commissioner's exempt list come roster cutdown day, and that has prevented him from playing these first two games of the season for the Browns. So something to still monitor, though, because now that the situation's played itself out legally, there's still a chance as he remains on paid leave, on that exempt list, that the league can now pursue further punishment under the personal conduct policy. There's nothing yet said or stated about the league potentially doing that, but just something to keep an eye on in terms of if they decide to go that route, if he could face some sort of suspension here coming up after his plea has gone through and he's now settled the matter from a legal standpoint. He told the courts, according to some of the reporting out there and the court records, that he's going to counseling and seeking sort of some extra help to be a better person from all this. So the situation is now behind him. The legal process that the Browns said they want to see play out is now something in the rearview mirror. And now it's just about awaiting whatever the league decides to do moving forward. If they decide to suspend him, if they don't decide to suspend him, remains to be seen, but we'll keep an eye on that one for you. Also from today, and I thought this was one of the more interesting comments, there was, by the way, as we get ready for the matchup with the Giants, and as the Browns get ready for the matchup with the Giants, and you can read his full quote over at Cleveland Browns on SI. Jim Schwartz, defensive coordinator, had a pretty high, some pretty high praise for Giants rookie wide receiver Malik Neighbors, and he compared him to a former Cleveland Browns star. I think that's where I'll leave it for now. I will force you guys to go over to Cleveland Browns on SI and click on the article and read the story yourself. But he compared him to a former Cleveland Browns star in his comparison to the type of player that he thinks he is. So I implore you to check that out over at Cleveland Browns on SI. But I do want to play this clip because Amari Cooper had some interesting comments today in regards to his rough start to the season and how he's actually sort of changed his approach during the week of practice this week, which might sort of surprise some people that he kind of was this revealing and open in terms of what he had to say. But he says that he talks about how he knows he'll get through this thing and come out on the other side. We'll react to it on the other side. But here's what Amari Cooper had to say.
We can always be more intentional. Like I went out there yesterday, I treated practice like the game, and that's what I'm gonna go and do every single day of practice moving forward. Just treat the practice like the game, attacking it just like I would the game. I can't say I've necessarily been doing that, but that's what I got to do.
Why do you think you haven't been doing
It's a good question. Sometimes you just fall off a little bit. You need a reminder, and that's what the first 2 weeks kind of gave me. And so I'm back on track. I would say I'm not a perfect player. Um, you know, just because there's bumps in the road doesn't mean that you're a bad driver. Sometimes you got to go around them. Sometimes you got to go through them, and I'm definitely going through them. So, to answer your question, I have had stretches like this before.
Do you reflect on those and how you came out of them in this kind of time?
Yeah, and that's why they say experience is the best teacher, because I do go back and reflect on those moments, and it seemed like the end of the world then, and it wasn't. And I was able to bounce back. So that's why I'm so assured that I will this time. One of the things I don't really pay too much attention to the media. That kind of be in your head a little bit. So I've learned not to do that. Definitely. But just remind myself that I've played this game my whole life. You know what I mean? I've gotten a multitude of reps at any type of scenario I could be faced with at the.
So some interesting thoughts from Amari Cooper, and I thought it was kind of telling and interesting that he was so open and honest about his maybe approach to the start of the season, and now he's kind of taking a different approach now after a couple rough games to start the year. We obviously had a couple drops, a couple costly drops at that. We know about the one in the Cowboys game that would have been a touchdown. This past weekend drop one against the Jags that would have been a 20-plus yard gain. And so, kind of telling you there, he maybe hasn't taken the start of the season as seriously at practice as he should have. And he's trying to sort of alter the way he goes about it. This is pure speculation by me. I don't know anything internally in terms of the psyche of Amari Cooper. Nobody does. He's not. He tends to kind of be a closed book in terms of his emotions. He gives off that very professional persona. But I just have a hard time believing that some of the things that played out this offseason aren't impacting him at all. You don't get the contract extension that maybe you're looking for. Yes, you're back with the Browns. They paid you and guaranteed you some money, but it's not exactly what you were looking for. The trade rumors with the 49ers that he was linked in as well. It almost makes me wonder if there's something there, a disconnect there where, he's almost half in, half out. I'm not saying that he's being a bad teammate or it's impacting the locker room, but I just wonder if maybe that's part of the reason why he's taken, or he's slow played or hasn't been maybe taking it seriously, the practice reps and the stuff during the week that's led up to these games and these performances that just haven't seemed like the characteristic or the normal Amari Cooper that we're used to seeing. So something to keep an eye on, but I thought it was interesting that he did share that publicly, that he's going about practice a little bit differently now, that he's had a couple rough games, and that the games kind of served as a wake-up call even for him. So something to watch moving forward, and we'll see if he can have that bounce-back performance that he alluded to when they play the Giants, obviously coming up on Sunday afternoon over at Huntington Bank Field. We have plenty of Browns coverage coming your way right here at the Cleveland Browns on SI YouTube channel. We encourage you guys to keep following along with everything here, but also at Cleveland Browns on SI, where I wrote a bunch of different stuff today. I mentioned the piece already, the Jim Schwartz, Malik Neighbors comparison to a former Browns star. You want to check that one out. I have a story up about Amari Cooper with a lot of those comments that he just made, just his new approach to practice after a tough start to the season. Also have the Mike Hall information up there, among some other things. So keep an eye on all that, and we encourage you to keep on following along for all your Cleveland Browns coverage at Cleveland Browns on SI. We'll be back with more coverage of your Cleveland Browns.